on AI applied, everybody's been talking about O3, OpenAI's O3 and O4 mini. I've been testing it out a bunch. I know Jaden's been testing it out a bunch. But people are really lighting up about this. There's even some smatterings around about like, is this AGI or is it not AGI? And some people are saying like, is it kind of like functionally AGI? And look, we're not going that far. We're not sort of like doing some huge episode on that. But I will say, by the way, Jaden, speaking of episode, and I didn't clear this with you before, but let me just say this. We don't do like advertisements on this podcast. I think we're pretty rare about that. But guys, the hugest thing you can do, usually we say this at the end, but if you can leave us a rating or review today, it would really be amazing. Because again, we don't do advertisements. It's not like you have to like sort of scroll ahead because we're getting all these sponsorships. We try not to do that. We just do it for you guys, but that is the huge way you could do that. Super, super grateful. Okay. O3 and O4 mini. And also, Jaden, you were telling me offline about the open source thing, which I hadn't really seen with OpenAI. Anyway, tell me what you've seen, because what I've seen with O3 and O4 mini is that I've found great results out of it. People seem to be really, really loving it. There was like a hallucination story around it too, where maybe it's like hallucinating a little more too. Anyway, tell me what you've been seeing about it.
Okay, so it's been out for a few days now. So there's a bunch of interesting things. I wanted to go over a couple gems I pulled out of the posts leading up to it being announced by Sam Altman and actually being announced. So the first one we found was back in January 17 when he was kind of announcing that it was about to come up. And this is something that I think was funny. He said, "Thank you to the external safety researchers who tested it. We're now finalizing it. It's going to release in a couple weeks. We also heard feedback. We're going to launch the API with Chat and ChatGPT at the same time." Okay, that was kind of the pre-launch. And true to their word, they launched the API and ChatGPT at the same time. Developers rejoiced. This is amazing. I got it same day integrated into my software company that I'm working on, AI Box, which, by the way, if you want to test it out, aibox.ai. We're taking beta users right now. So it's actually live and you can test out the platform. I'll do like a big rundown on it when it's serious and fully rolled out. But if you're curious, you can go check that out. But in any case, we were thrilled about it, and a lot of people were thrilled about it for that reason. The other thing that I thought was interesting in that is he said, "Thank you to the external safety tester researchers," whatever. It got so much pushback, and I'm not exactly sure who's doing all the pushback on this, but like TechCrunch and a bunch of other people were like, apparently the O3 model didn't get as much safety testing as other models. They didn't write a special safety report like they did for other models. Like all of these people were like kind of getting mad about like the safety element of it, even though I haven't seen any reports of it doing anything unsafe. And OpenAI is obviously a serious company. But I just think it's funny because I think OpenAI knows at this point people are going to say that no matter what. Anthropic makes a really big deal in their last, I think I've seen 2 articles from Anthropic in the last a week that are about like new safety measures and safety things they're doing. Like we haven't, this is a terrible parallel to draw, but it's like, I feel like I haven't seen huge updates and innovation out of Anthropic in compared to maybe ChatGPT with their new image model. And it feels like they're crushing a lot of things. Anthropic is like, oh, it's kind of safe. And so I'm seeing all these like safety things. But I also feel like I hear less people talking about Anthropic, and I'm worried that like maybe they get sometimes bogged down by the safety. And OpenAI actually made a comment on that saying like, look, if all of our competitors stop doing rigorous safety testing, we're going to do less rigorous safety testing because we don't want it to slow us down. So anyways, that's probably why they're getting a bunch of bad PR and people were saying that. But it is interesting that literally in the post pre-announcing it, Sam Altman's like, we tested it with safety people. Don't worry, right? So I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Here's the crazy thing, though. It's out. People are having amazing results for it. Of course, it can search the web, which I think is important. Pretty much what I think they're doing right now is they're consolidating a lot of the features and tools that all the other random ChatGPT versions have. So like if you go over to ChatGPT and you hit a drop down on what models are available, there's GPT-4o, GPT-4o with scheduled tasks, GPT 4.5 research preview, O3, O4 mini, O4 mini high. You can even get more models, 4o mini and GPT-4, which is about to die in like a few days. So you have all of this, but they all have different like uses. So like if you want like I don't know, really diving deep into topics, GPT 4.5 is really good. But if you want scheduled tasks, you have to use GPT 4o still. So like
Jaden's reading off the little blurbs off the drop down menu, by the way. Like this is literally what it says. Hold it there for a second, Jaden. It says like GPT 4o, great for most questions. GPT 4o with scheduled tasks, which we covered a long time ago. Ask ChatGPT to follow up later. GPT 4.5, good for writing and exploring ideas. O3 uses advanced reasoning. O4 mini, fastest at advanced reasoning. O4 mini high, great at coding and visual reasoning. Like who can decipher between these?
Who can decipher? Okay. The thing I wanted to say though is that I'm thrilled, regardless of anything else that this model has improved on according to benchmarks. I'm thrilled that it's grabbing all of the features from the other models and sticking it in one. No longer, like, you don't have to hit this drop down menu and look through everything and decide which one you want to test out. Just use O3 and you're going to be completely fine. You're going to get most of the features of everything else. And so that's what I'm excited about with this model.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I think it's, for me it's, I you know I don't know, Jaden. So first of all, on Claude, I used to, and you know me, right? I was like the biggest Claude's biggest fan ever, and I was just using it. I sort of like called it like the company of the year last year because I was using it for so many things, but really because it does one thing unbelievably well. It just the like tone of voice, like branding
Yep.
voice, all
Yep.
that sort of stuff. It's just great. I love the interface. Also, I love artifacts. I just think it's a great model. But I got to tell you that between Gemini, ChatGPT, and Grok, I'm really starting to see huge upticks in how they talk, like their tone of voice and all that sort of stuff. And to me, remember back in the day with Anthropic where the big thing was the context window? Yeah, it was safety, but it was like, remember, it had the huge context window? That was like
Yep.
the big thing back in 2023. And so Anthropic has to have its thing. You know what I mean? I know it's great at coding and I don't code, so maybe that's it. But on O3, I don't know. I'm finding it pretty great. And so, I just have to test these models myself. And guys, the truth is, ultimately, you just have to sort of like find the one that's comfortable with, that you're comfortable with. As Jaden was saying, at one point, and this is in the previous episode, I think, Jaden, but like when you were saying, I remember you saying something like, if something's like 10% better, you just don't switch or something like that. Like something has to be
Yep.
pretty significantly better, or have an incredible image generator, or be incredible with coding, or be incredible with producing spreadsheets and PDFs. I was doing this with ChatGPT yesterday. Actually, I had to write a proposal for somebody, and it created into like a Word document, where I was just doing a
Yep.
goofy thing with my daughter Lucy, and we just watched Moonfall. Holy cow, guys, holy smokes, that movie, so bad. But anyway, so we like wrote like a movie poster review of it. It was just like fun goofy stuff. But ChatGPT is actually like really adding these incredible features, and the fact that it talks naturally now too is great. And last thing on this, the fact that O3 is giving me, I find, such high quality answers, like really high quality answers. The only thing is, if you're asking for something super quick, we're so used to blinding speed that it says thinking, and even if it only thinks for 6 seconds, it kind of feels like an eternity.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm pretty bullish on O3 at the moment. I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Okay, that brings me to the next really exciting thing, which is that OpenAI has said that they're going to make their upcoming open source model a best in class model. You could say a flagship model. We'll see exactly what like they mean by that. But pretty much the background on this is that with Elon Musk's lawsuits, OpenAI was supposed to release all of their AI models. Kind of the concept was these open source AI models. Of course, it went closed source and it's for profit. And we kind of love the product. And people argue like, yeah, this was all necessary to make the great product you love today. So you can
Right.
have that debate, be it what you will. But the thing that I think is interesting is I think there's a little part of them that maybe feels bad or feels like, hey, we should do a little bit more for the open source community, meaning like they put these models out and anyone can take them, modify them, use them, don't have to pay them API usage credits. Now, obviously, this is insanely expensive, and so they're not going to do this for everything. But apparently, for their next one, it is going to be, they're going to have their first open quote unquote open, right? This didn't actually say open source. It just says open language model. And this will be the first
Yeah.
one since GPT-2. And that is going to come out sometime this year. So there's not a ton of, specifications. I don't think they want to promise very highly on this, with the risk that maybe they just change their mind and then they're going to get completely roasted. They don't want to have to walk anything back. But it seems like this is going to be a very interesting concept and hopefully appease some people, maybe people that are kind of rah-rah on the Elon Musk suing them lawsuit will kind of back down. I think that's kind of the PR they're going for. What's your take on it though, Connor?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I mean, because it's funny on that article. So if you're watching on YouTube, um, that article sort of says open in quotes. This is the TechCrunch article, and it reminds me sort of like the open source is can mean sort of different things, right? There's a like, so sometimes they just mean like open weight, things like that. Like you can't completely get in there and change everything. But then also the interesting thing, which I hadn't seen this article, Jaden, um, but the backlash against Meta's Llama and
Mm-hmm.
Google's Gemma have been criticized for imposing criticisms that OpenAI is seemingly seeking to avoid. And then it says it's increasingly facing pressure from things like DeepSeek and things like that.
Yeah.
Jaden,
Yeah.
the other thing, I know we're kind of wrapping up, but the other thing is, I wonder if it's also just partly, maybe this is dumb, but to try to placate the lawsuits that came in from like Elon and everybody else being like,
Yep.
oh, well, your original, the original sort of like whatever mission of this place was to be open, and it was OpenAI, but OpenAI is not open. It's a very expensive way to sort of like guard against that. So maybe that's not what it is at all, but it also can't hurt,
Yep. Yep. No, I think this is fantastic. There's a lot of players that have done this very successfully. A lot of people point to the fact that Llama has essentially kind of done this, and they just announced that they had over 1 billion downloads on their quote unquote open model.
Right.
And like, to be fair, I actually use a lot of the Llama models, but I'm not paying Meta for them. I don't have an API to Meta. I use a third-party software that essentially, or company that essentially takes Llama models, hosts them, and allows me to pay them an API, and I put them on my platform. AI box doing that. So this is essentially kind of a gift that Meta gave to that company. A lot of other people like this kind of open source thing. It also helps people build on the ecosystem, but it also is a good thing for Meta. It built up a lot of goodwill in the AI community, in the tech community, which was kind of, I guess, Mark Zuckerberg had taken a lot of heat for like a lot of things that happened at Meta and all of his other companies and stuff. So it's almost like a way to appease. And right now, when OpenAI is taking a lot of heat, it feels like they're going to try the same playbook of building goodwill by doing this. So a bunch of sources talking to TechCrunch about kind of what was going to be in this said that it's going to be it's just a text model, right? So text in, text out. It's going to run on, it'll be able to run on high-end consumer hardware. Now, that to me is interesting because that doesn't mean you have to have this running at a data center somewhere where people can essentially get access to it, like I do with some of the Llama models. High-end consumer hardware means if you have a really good MacBook, maybe the newest MacBook, you might be able to run this right on your computer. Or perhaps it's like more souped up, gaming PCs or something like that. But the point is, it will be able to run on an actual device, which I think is very interesting. People could, potentially download ChatGPT, run it locally on their device, and not have to pay for an account or an API. And you could imagine people doing some pretty innovative things with this. Hardware makers, right? Like, let's say your Dell laptop, for example, and you don't want to have to pay. I don't know what the deal is with like Microsoft Copilot, or if there's any sort of licensing fee, or maybe Microsoft's operating system just kind of encapsulates that. But like, you could imagine like a hardware device could offer, hey, we have AI built into our hardware for free that you don't have to pay for because it's just built into your device. People might be interested in that, or maybe it's a privacy thing. They don't want their data ever leaving their device. Kind of what Apple promised. We haven't really seen it yet. But I think there's some very interesting use cases in privacy and cost savings, and not to mention the internet. Right now I'm traveling. I'm in Mexico, and sometimes I don't have good reception places, and I'm like trying to ask ChatGPT or Grok questions on my phone, and it's like it takes forever to load and whatever. And I'm like, you know what? If I just had this loaded on here, I wouldn't have to worry about slow internet. So there are some very good use cases that I think would be very interesting if this open model actually rolls out from OpenAI.
I think that's the biggest one for consumers and everybody out there on this AI Applied show is really that, and I'll end it here, but just this idea that you can have this locally on your device without worrying about sort of sending training data or anything like that, and then it can just come through hardware updates and things like that because these models are tiny now. So anyway, sorry, we're going a little long there, but this is a cool topic. Listen, if you have enjoyed this episode, I got to tell you something that Jaden does behind the scenes, which he doesn't really talk about on this show, but he has it on some of his other podcasts, which is his school community, where he has something like, I was hearing he has something like 50, videos on AI hustle and just like how to apply AI in startups, everything else. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm telling you, it's only $19 a month. It's really, really worth it. I'm telling you, there's not many opportunities to get this kind of access to our guy Jaden, and he really is sort of like a little bit of a mad scientist with his colleague Jamie. So anyway, check that out. I highly recommend it. He has like hundreds and hundreds of users and everything like that. But like just for you guys, if you want to go check it out on School, SKOOL, and look for AI Hustle, and you'll find it there. And we will see you next time.